we've texted very briefly. And my dad's at work. And he has no service, so we haven't talked but one time, maybe since he's been gone.
So Larry did some tomatoes over. He said, I sent Les text, give him your tomatoes away. Your wife's all gallivanting around.
You could have called me.
They call us.
I'd have went and got it.
Your dog is loud.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna mute myself.
That's been fine as me. Yes.
Perfect.
Wait for Lauren to get on. Make sure she doesn't have any issues.
Softball tryouts were posted yesterday.
Oh yeah, somebody had sent me a message. Who was it?
Yeah.
Asking.
Candy Hatton. Oh, so much. She said they were going to be out of town.
Who was it?
Candy
Yeah,
Hatton.
Candy Hatton. Yeah. But
I didn't
they're going to be
respond.
another, and I said I'll just have to check to see. But
Why have you been getting a lot of messages? About
Who was the code?
hey,
hey,
you're
how
on
are you?
YouTube if you see there. Just so you know.
That kind of stuff.
Everybody have a board meeting or-
Don't you just love people's assumptions? Sorry. Kim, Nikki, I know has one.
Thank you for coming up here to sign.
Anything done?
Yeah, it's just- Circle grant stuff too. And just Cassie saying I might do things. Thank you, ma'am. All right, Lauren's on there. I was just waiting on you.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you, man.
I stepped away, so.
Oh.
All right, so in your note catcher on page 13, you have these two questions. If you'll independently complete them in that do now section. And you prepare to teach a unit from the guidebooks. What steps do you take? What successes and challenges have you experienced when preparing to teach a new unit?
Don't know who that was, but hey.
This chair is like.
We'll get you a.
There's another one over there.
She got that one. No, she got that one. There's one over there by the door.
Are you using it?
Well, was, as you see, so it's closer to it. It's easier just if you
Thank
do.
you.
It's all right.
I probably got this sheet. I'm wondering if I can get the chair. The chair. I know, but like my head even is cold. Yeah. I think there's a jacket in my car. I think I'm gonna go get it because I can't be this miserable. Oh, do you want some water? I got some Crystal Light.
Just stand outside for like 30 seconds. You'll defrost.
All right, so
I
once
better be
you've
losing
written down a
weight.
couple of things, kind of share with your partner, see if there's some things that you had forgotten or you didn't even think about doing whenever you prepare for a unit, to teach a new unit.
Rereading.
Usually don't do that.
Mhm.
Well, the first thing I do is you know what they, yeah.
What just happened?
I just continue by myself. The main goal is do that here. Understand the task, figure out, I know what to do. Be able to do in either, fair share, group work,
Right.
understand those tasks, but some of those tasks like that's a private seminar.
Mhm.
That's all. That's just a little more.
And that's more just kind of a classroom discussion.
Right.
That's a lot.
I can't do, but
Yeah. Think of
whatever they have for dinner. Yeah.
I wanna do that with the conversations.
Yeah.
Post those. Do you have those posted?
No, I like the,
They have-
look at it and see what it's about. And then get confused on what I was. Cause I like it.
Because I didn't know if I just like
I can't just take.
we need to focus on it towards the end.
All right, so take a moment to review our objectives for this session. As you can see, our focus for today is to learn and practice a protocol for unpacking the knowledge and skills students need to have in order to be successful on assessment. So for our purposes today, we're going to look at the cold read task from Flowers for Algernon. And then we're going to dig into the guidebooks lessons for this unit to see how the sequence of lessons helps is intentionally designed to help students on that task. Here's our agenda for this session. We're going to start by unpacking a section of the cold read task before exploring guidebooks lessons. All right, so just think about, I want you to recall the 3 types of assessments found in each unit. We have the culminating writing task, the cold read task, and the extension task. I'll give you just a minute just to kind of look over these. They're in the slides or up here. So when you prepare to teach a unit, you need to conduct a careful analysis of all 3 of these to develop a deeper understanding of what students are expected to do by the end of the unit. So for our purposes today, again, we're going to zoom in and unpack the skills and knowledge needed to be successful on the cold read task. Cold read task requires students to read 1 or more unfamiliar passages and express their understanding by responding to multiple choice, innovative type items, open-ended responses, much like the items students will encounter on the end of the year assessment. I did not mean to do that. There we go. So first, let's just get a quick sense of what the cold read task from Flowers of Algernon is all about. This task requires students to read aloud 2 texts and compare and contrast them. These 2 texts relate to the unit's theme. The overall theme is, about intelligence. Amber and Lauren, I updated classroom so you can get this. Okay. So students will complete several multiple choice, part A, part B questions, as well as some innovative item types. And then they're going to write an essay synthesizing what they've learned from these 2 articles and connecting it back to the anchor text, Flowers for Algernon. So we're going to spend quite a bit of time digging into and unpacking this task in this session. Our guiding question is, What skills and knowledge do students need to be successful on this task? So first, we're going to zoom into knowledge demands. And to do that, we need to read the text. So the texts are actually on pages 5 through 9. Yeah, 5 through 9 of this packet. So if you will read the two texts, does IQ test really measure intelligence, and IQ tests are meaningless and too simplistic? And look for what knowledge must students have in order to read and understand these texts independently. So think about that background knowledge. So I'm going to give you about 8 minutes just to read through both of these texts and to think about that question.
So it's the two things on intelligence from the curriculum samples packet, but then the question on the cold read task in the cold read task and text document. Like question number 1. Courtney? Courtney? SOS? Hello? Lauren, back me up on this. Like, what?
Everyone, coordinate.
Are
Okay.
you asking a question?
Yes.
Sorry.
So in the curriculum samples packet, it's the theories of intelligence and the IQ, blah, blah, blah. But then the question we're answering on the note catcher is about question 1 on the cold read task.
No, don't answer anything on the note catcher right now. Just read.
Oh,
Sorry.
you were both confused.
The volume was down, and I walked by, and y'all are both like laughing and talking. So
I was like, SOS. Courtney.
You were just waiting. Nobody was answering it.
I was like, I'm not on mute. I just Lauren could hear me, so I was like, what the
it was me. I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm gonna mute myself again, but we were just making sure. Like, I was confused because that's like 3 documents at once for us.
No, just read that last part.
Okay.
Read the story.
Oh. Okay.
Okay.
I've done that.
Got it.
And think about the question.
Okay.
So the knowledge demands. Okay.
It's just dry, and it's like spinning.
Give you about 3 more minutes. If you don't finish it all, it's totally okay. But okay, so what do students need to know about and be able to do in order to read these 2 texts independently? What do y'all think? What's some kind of background knowledge that they need?
They should know what an IQ test
Exactly. They need to know what an IQ test
What that
is.
even stands for. They need
Yes.
to know about that.
They do. So they must have that background knowledge on what an IQ is and the basic understanding of a classical IQ test. This is their cold read task. So this is at the end of the unit. So on page, sorry, let me go back. On page 14 of your note catcher at the top, it has a little spot if you want to write down just quick jot like what we just discussed, what an IQ test is, and basic understanding of a classical IQ test. So it's 14 at the very top. I meant to give y'all time to independently write. Sorry. So back to this question. What skills and knowledge do students need to be successful on this task? We talked about the knowledge. So now that we have this basic understanding of the knowledge they need to know, we also need to know and be able to unpack the skills that they need to be successful on the task. So in a moment, you're going to work with a partner to unpack each question, but let's do one together first. All right. Just independently, you can read it here or on your page in your packet. Review question number 1. All right, so what are some of the skills that they need to know in order, what must they be able to do in order to answer this question?
Comprehend.
Okay, they need to,
Read.
yeah, comprehend what they've read. But think specific skills. You know, back when we taught skills-based summarize. All right, anything else? They probably need to know the central idea of the text, because that's basically what they're asking, although they did not say what is the central idea of the text. They're saying summarize, you know, which one summarizes it, and these are central ideas. So they have to choose the central idea. All right, so if you want to write that down in your note catcher on page 14 at the bottom.
I think I'm mixing up what to put on the top and on the bottom
It's okay.
because they're like the same question, but not.
Yeah, one's talking about knowledge and one's skills. But that's okay.
But I guess it looks funny on ours because like y'all are handwriting and it just looks like we're not writing enough because we're trying to type it. I get it.
No, it doesn't have to be a lot.
Oh, okay. It's giving me anxiety.
Big space does not mean big answer.
Okay. If I was writing it, you know, it'd be huge, but.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. It's just like so much smaller than what I thought.
You're fine. All right, so now you're going to work with a partner and unpack and annotate the task. So read each question, determine which skills students need in order to answer the question, and write the skills you identified next to the question. So I'm going to give you about 10 minutes to go through. What'd you say? I don't know. Yeah, I don't.
What format is that?
And unless it's like a link in the actual.
Oh, I bet it is. I bet it's a link. Yeah.
Because it's only done in that first one. So I bet it is.
Good job.
Do
They were asking about something. Don't worry about it.
Yes.
So
we can't annotate the task though, right?
if you want to just type it where it says question 1, like put like number 1 by that and tell me what skills, put a 2, you know, at the bottom of page 14.
The main idea.
Okay.
And just put 2 and tell me what skills they'll need to know for it. And so on for all the questions.
We're just.
Got it?
The skills.
All the way through question 7.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're just doing like 2.
I wanted to know the right answer.
I'll
See,
see.
yeah.
Can you tell us if C was the right answer?
Got that more?
Okay. So we're on the right track.
We just wanted to know.
What are you saying?
Wanted to know, we know we're doing the skills for each question.
I think it's C.
We wanted to be sure.
You don't have-
that C was the right- We know, but we wanted to know.
I think
Oh,
so.
y'all trying to answer questions.
They're,
Yeah,
no, you don't have to. They're just being
It
OCD.
was me.
Yeah, but I did it too because I said C as well.
What's the answer?
All right.
But see, when you're unpacking it though, as a teacher, like you need to be able to see and do that, and then go back and check your answers to see, oh, what did I do wrong?
Right.
You know? That's what I mean.
Memory tasks are not always easy.
Yeah. No, they're not.
They're really not.
And you need to know why that it was
Right.
answered that way, because, because technically,
I mean, because it does say
It
that.
does say that, but it's not the best.
But the best answer is right.
Okay.
Okay, so we're just unpacking skills that we need. So we'll just read the question. Oh, you're good, because I did that too, and I answered it in my head, and then was like, oh, that's not what we're doing.
Then I thought I missed that she actually gave the answer, because you were like, no, she gave the answer.
Let's see, develop central idea.
Because then it said, yeah, I said it number 1, you had to have a central idea. So it's not in there that you have to find a central idea, but they're finding it, you know.
They have to be able to.
The skills for that. Get that answer, kind of good. What does she say?
I expect you to answer.
Is there not a list? Is it the images of skills? You know what I mean? Because these are not gonna do anything for you. I'm just thinking, I've been in social studies yesterday, so now I'm in ELA. You know what I'm
So,
saying?
yeah.
Like, and then, yeah.
Switch.
Yeah. I have to think about what is my toolbox of.
Yeah.
Like, so they're,
Because you couldn't just get it from
So
the.
there's.
Yeah, I wonder if
What was it in the line?
Yeah, we're over here.
their skills that they, so,
Central idea.
right, so it's basically the same as the first one, right? Okay, that's
Yeah,
what I
the
was
first one
thinking.
is being able to summarize. And the second one is essential development.
Determining
Central
like
idea,
the
and they have to be able to
idea
support.
and
Central
support it.
ideas with
Mhm.
evidence. Okay.
Okay, so they're gonna, basically what they're doing is analyzing what,
Yeah.
what they're getting.
Yeah.
Essentially, they're supporting, so
Right.
to support it, you have to have some like
Well,
evidence.
see, that's the
The
good thing
background.
though, is when you go through and you do these whole tasks, like, to go through them as a teacher and do this and then try to find the answer and see, like, if you're having a hard time finding that answer, you know,
I think
you're gonna have to, like, you might have to
Yeah, I
build
just
some
wanna
more
answer
supports
them.
for
I
the
don't wanna,
students,
like-
is like how to do that type of question.
This is accurate.
Cause like it's nothing to
So,
read and then answer them, but working.
That's
back
like the
and
best,
while you're writing.
that's
Yeah,
important.
exactly,
Like
so they're
best
getting more
explains,
stuff, you're gonna
like
see
you
that
said,
in this
sometimes
opinion, like, they're
two
getting more
answers can be
information
right,
for,
the one
so they're putting a
best
little bit of
explains.
different
Well,
and then
all of it
accurate
can be
too.
right.
Right, exactly. And then here, author's purpose
Go through and give them the answer.
and evidence.
So what do you got?
And next one, best
Figure out why
supports.
you got wrong. You can't recommend why you got wrong. You can, or you can mark it. Yeah. When you go back to questions that.
Which sentence provides information that
Here's
contradicts.
why this answer was wrong. Here's why this was the right answer. Here's how to get there.
uh-huh.
You know, things out there that you have tools to get in there. Make sure this is how it.
So basically, it's determining if the central ideas, supporting them,
Yeah.
identifying.
For who?
Yeah, they have a great text going on over
Oh,
here.
yeah, I'm sure it's boring to them.
I didn't get to
Like,
watch
to
any of
sit
her
there.
video though.
Same thing, I was gonna do that. But then I get on, but then I just get
She's out of country though. No, she's not. She's at home.
And then Florence and Dallas, and I mean, like, to drive for that little bit, you know, like.
Wouldn't pay for gas.
I think, yeah,
contradicts. So.
I mean, I understand stuff, I understand, you know. No.
Netflix, you do.
I'm gonna have to watch it then.
I like those kind of shows. I like those.
What
kind of
that
shows.
show we were watching in, yeah,
It was actually pretty
interesting.
I love the Hallmark Channel.
it was just
I
so.
cried. Oh.
Well, I mean, most about like that kind of
When
stuff.
she first showed it out, I was like,
variety of stuff, like, I don't.
but then I kinda got
She
into
thinks
it.
you're too cool.
Well, because I watched the originals, that's all she knows that I watch.
Yeah, that's. Anyway,
We had Netflix on our TVs out there. Cut it all to the brain. It was
At
at
first, I was like,
But
it got interesting.
Yeah.
Y'all need more time?
Then I'm done.
Are we just supposed to be telling them?
All
Like
of it.
skills.
The whole thing. No, you just have to go all the way through number 7? Yeah, okay. Oh, I see now.
I didn't use a highlighter.
I was like, Penny's the only one. No.
Perfect.
One.
Yeah.
What else do you watch besides the original?
Much of anything right
I
now.
don't really watch it, but your big brother does go on, doesn't he?
I watch a lot of like
That kind of
that
stuff.
kind of stuff.
Did they came
My brother
on?
comes on tomorrow night.
Yes.
Colin Russell got me into Big Brother like the first part last year. He
I
wrote
watched
this
it
essay on
season
why I should
1.
watch it, and I started watching it, and I was
Well,
hooked.
see, last year wasn't even good. I didn't care for it, but
I was hooked. So if it's better, like
all right. So let's just kind of run through them real quickly and see what you guys got. Number 1, we said, you know, summary and central theme. But what about number 2?
Central idea.
Your idea of it.
develop the sense.
So yeah, we need to know not just the central idea, but how the author develops it, and then the best evidence, right? Number 3, they give you some evidence, and what do you have to do with it?
Which one's
Which one's the best?
So you're analyzing that evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4,
Author's
author's purpose and relevant evidence. Number 5, those contradicting standards.
Yeah.
They have the comprehension.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if they don't know what contradicts is, you're gonna have to bring it.
Yeah, you would. So you're going to have to make sure that which I think in this unit, there's a lot of that.
Yes, there's a whole bunch in this unit.
So to tell about all of that. So, and then finding relevant supporting evidence. What about number 6? So there's 4 in number 6. So
Be able to determine if the two texts are agreeing or disagreeing with each other, but also provide textual evidence to back up your decision about that and decide if it's actual facts or if it's just you interpreting it.
exactly. And then
I might have taught this lesson maybe once or twice.
number 7.
They're going to
So for
write
the
an
essay?
essay that explains the character's opinion. They have to cite evidence that supports their response and be able to use like proper English.
So they have to evaluate those 3 opinions presented by characters in a literary text, write a multi-paragraph essay, cite evidence, build knowledge on IQ research from 2 articles. Great. So now that we know what we have to do, or the students will have to do in this cold read task, we need to know how do the guidebooks prepare our students for to be successful on this unit assessment. So what I'm going to do is have you look, and you're going to see what evidence you see of the building of the knowledge and what evidence you see of the skills that we unpack. So if there are 3 Chromebooks at each table, 2 of them, I'm using one. I wasn't going to have 2, but I had to. So if y'all will just kind of partner up, you can share with the partner. You can, it doesn't matter to me how y'all do it. Just have somebody log into Learn Zillion and go to the flowers for Algernon unit, and it's grade 8.
Okay, so you can have one. I'm just gonna watch her because I'm not logged on.
I
I
do.
don't have a login.
Suggested.
So if you'll just go to,
Because
so I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes just to log in. I should already have the Wi-Fi because these were the computers we used a couple of weeks ago. If it doesn't, just let us know. We'll give you the passcode.
Courtney, what's your password?
Yeah, I was going to say Cassie Carson was yours, but this is the one you were to.
So I was doing this last night and like tore the page out. It's hard to move outside cat. I was outside, the boys were swimming. I was out on the deck, like preparing.
And especially like
outside
all the
kind of
kids,
shut
because like you have personal logins.
Yeah, they're
with tablet
plugged
ends, so they're
into
just
the
used to-
thing, but you can just grab one.
I just.
What exactly do we go to on Learn Zillion? Flowers for Algernon and then what?
Flowers for Algernon unit.
dead or is it working?
Just the whole unit right now?
Yeah, just go to the unit.
Okay.
No.
You got it, Laura.
No, it's not letting me sign in, so I'm trying to look at something real quick.
It's gonna be good.
Sign into my Learn Zillion.
Once you get there, you don't have to open up any of the actual lessons. You can look at the lesson overview. And then on page 15, the catcher, just kind of write down like you're gonna write down just like let me go over the catcher, sorry. I'm thinking off the top of my head. So just the evidence you see for building knowledge. So you can look at the description on each lesson and see. You can look and see like for all those things. You can look on the lesson. So look at like the actual the texts that are used and the description for each lesson. And we're just seeing how the lessons feel to that unit assessment. Do y'all understand what I said?
Yeah, but that's like, how do I condense that?
So just go through, and you don't have to write a lot. Just like lessons 1 through we're working on this. Lessons 4 through 8 or whatever, we're working on this.
Yeah.
So just look at kind of the
This is
overview
like
of it.
section 1. That's great.
Okay, I can do it by section.
Just summarize short little
Analyze
snippets.
it.
It doesn't have to be a whole big thing.
Okay, on the top box of page 15.
But you're gonna just like summarize that.
I think so, Amber. That's what I'm doing.
Remember, like summarizing. That's more of. I mean, that's the skills, but like you have to like actually dig into the actual, I mean, the lessons to see they're talking about intelligence and all of that. Back to knowledge. Like, this is what I think. I can say that it's not the way it's and she thinks that she's the teacher. You know, she is the teacher. You see what I'm saying? So we just got to bring that back in.
and she kind of thought she was more. I know she got a lot. Years ago in New Orleans. So that. I'm so frustrated. Courtney, I thought I gotta let you go. It'll be a while. I'll call you back.
Turn it. Her.
Yeah, but they told me.
Shoot.
Oh,
So glad. Thank you. Okay. Oh, like talking all about it.
Oh, I know. You're fine. Don't do lesson 8. Y'all don't do the bottom. I'm sorry. If you did already, it's fine. The bottom square, that's for the next thing. So we're gonna dig into. It's okay. We'll dig into it anyway. And y'all ready to move on?
Do it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna move on. If this will come back on.
Time to watch Germany.
Oh hush.
Yeah, what's the?
Will you click? See if it's something over. Hold on.
Okay.
All right, so okay, there we go. It works now. So we're gonna dig into lesson 8 a little bit. So open up and click on lesson 8. Open it up and like look at the actual lesson. I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes to just read through the lesson, read the teaching notes that are in the lesson, and look for specific evidence on how this lesson supports students in building skills and knowledge that we unpacked from the cold read task.
Where do we write that?
So this is at the bottom of page 15 to in your note catcher for you to write.
Okay.
Was I about to get in trouble?
No, not you. This thing just like took us all the way back.
What is it? Oh yeah. I mean, it's like a T chart, but with another column, and they just call it, I don't know why they call it an H chart, because it doesn't really look like it. I guess if you just take the middle part, you know,
Are
yeah.
you
it looks
saying
like an
H? H.
It's just a big one.
Yeah. And it's something that, like, if you teach your kids, oh, an H chart, they know, it's, you know,
Well,
instead of a
It doesn't
T.
really look.
No,
it
It's
doesn't.
a
Always
chart, a
model
double
making-
T chart.
Yeah,
Turn it sideways.
yeah. But it's just a 3-column, you know.
Usually do it. Fold your paper into a burrito.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it.
Taco,
I like
hamburger
it.
style, hot dogs, yeah.
You're talking about tacos?
Do what?
What are you talking
She's heard food.
she heard tacos.
about? Tacos.
Where you talking about?
We're talking about how to fold paper, like you fold it like a taco, or you fold it.
Hamburger or hot dog? Y'all got me excited talking about tacos.
She's never had the burrito. Right.
All right, so just
We're developing a claim on.
if anyone, I'm not going to say wants to share, or if anyone will share, please. How does this lesson support students in building those knowledge that are specific to that cold read task? What were some of the things that you saw?
If nobody shares, I will.
Go ahead.
It requires them to connect one text to another conceptually.
Yes. So they have to use, so it uses that ink blot article and then the flowers for Algernon. 2 texts. What else?
Locate evidence from both texts.
They have to locate evidence. They also have to make a claim, right?
And they have to apply it
They do.
to the nonfiction story based on the factual evidence of the other 2 articles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Discussion.
Yeah, what she said.
What
Because
she
one's
said,
not,
right?
yeah, we were all gonna say that.
Yeah.
And that's why.
So what does this mean exactly? So what we just uncovered is a key design of the principle of the guidebooks, and that's backwards design principle. Each unit is designed with that end in mind. So they made the assessments, and then they designed all of the lessons to build up to all of these tasks at the end. So once the goal and the purpose of the unit has been determined, the 3 assessments are created first to establish that bar for students, and all the lessons are created to help guide students to be able to be successful on the task. So why is this important? Let's think about it this way. What would happen if you skipped a text?
They would.
They wouldn't get the background knowledge or.
They wouldn't have any knowledge to apply to the culminating task or anything else.
What about if you skipped a lesson?
You can't do that. That's impossible.
What about if you skipped several lessons?
Girl, then you're just, no.
Your students are not going to be successful, right? So if you go through and you say, oh, I don't like that passage, I'm going to put this one in instead. Well, they might not be getting some background information that they need to be successful at the end of that unit. All right, so in your on page 16 in your note catcher, you have these 2 questions. So what resonated most with you in this session and why? And what impact does this learning have on your planning practices? Let me just give you a couple of minutes. Hey, we're right on time. Timekeeper. Well, I'm trying to, so y'all can get out for lunch. You gotta do one more session.
Lunch is the most important thing. I don't know about this whole
We're
day.
gonna do one more session and then go to lunch at 12. So. It was, y'all. Somehow got put in the water. I got it all done. only got 30.
You must have
Courtney and I
graduation.
thought we need to start shopping together because we have the same jewelry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and clothes and food.
Finish up. We're going like $8.
$7.50.
$7.50. Yeah. I reckon that with tax, $8. All right, so let's just move on to session 4. After session 4, we're gonna go to lunch. So I know that's like the most important time. It is for me too. Food is important, right? All right, so on page 17 in the do now section, you have these questions. So think of a student who is in your classroom who is a fluent reader and a disfluent reader. So how would you describe each student's reading? What does it sound like? And what impact does their fluency or lack thereof have on their overall reading ability and their attitude towards reading? So just write a short little summary of what you think. I'll give you about 3 minutes. And once you finish writing it down, just you can share with a partner to see if you have any ideas that they don't have or some that maybe you don't have, they have. All right, so what about a fluent reader?
They read often, they're confident, they'll read independently, they'll participate in discussion, they are a grade level and above readers.
Great. What about disfluent readers?
You gotta make them read.
You have to make them read.
They don't
You
want
have
to read out
They
loud.
don't understand what they say, they're incompetent, they don't want to participate, they hate to read, they're frustrated, they're not engaged.
Hey, speak up.
They even have.
They said they're frustrated, they're not engaged, they don't want to read,
They shut down.
shut down.
They even have trouble conveying ideas that are not even school related.
Yeah, a lot of times they have trouble
Like
conveying.
socially.
Yeah,
They don't speak well many times as fluent as the confident.
yeah.
Even
So
just
it affects their speaking too.
I see a lot in my room that most of those kids were more technical, like they wanted to be on a computer or on their phones a lot more than interacting peer to peer.
Exactly.
speaking. It's safe.
It is. It's safe for them to be on technology. All right, so our session objectives today, I'll just let you read through them because I know I don't like listening to people read things to me.
Preach.
Right, and so our agenda. So we're going to start by defining fluency and considering its importance. And then we're going to learn tangible strategies and guidebook resources you can use to support fluency. So what is fluency? Reading fluency is not just another thing to teach. It isn't just about counting a student's words per minute and completing a running record. I know, like, if you've ever taught elementary, that's what, we have to practice fluency. That's what we had to do. But fluency is a critical component of literacy. In a moment, we're going to unpack a collection of research that shows us how important fluency is to comprehension and overall reading ability. But in the meantime, let's just settle on a norm definition for fluency. So fluency is the accurate reading of a text at an appropriate rate with appropriate expression. So as you can see, there are three core components of fluency. Those are accuracy, rate, and expression. So let's take a closer look at each one of these. So accuracy, if you'll look at the side, you have, at the top, great readers are fluent. You have the acronym R. It can help us remember these three key aspects of fluency. So first, we're going to go through, and I'm going to read this as a fluent reader. I'm going to read it as a disfluent reader. We're going to talk about how I read, like, accuracy, rate, and expression. So, when a student doesn't read, so when you read with accuracy, you either recognize the word or are able to decode it seamlessly. So when a student doesn't read with accuracy, it might sound like this. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house. Not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. So, So now let's look at rate. So we talked about accuracy, right? I didn't read it. I'm sorry, I skipped over. I need to read it fluently too. So 'twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house. Not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. So now let's look at rate, which refers to the speed with which a reader reads. It's important to note that.
With rate goes really well, but usually some slow down.
Yeah,
All of it.
exactly. So that's what I was about to say. It's important to notice that rate does not mean that you're reading fast. It means that you are reading appropriately, right? So they should not sound like this. It was the night before Christmas, and all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. Because a lot of times whenever you're told, like, you're wanting them to read fluently, I know, I've made this mistake as a teacher whenever I taught elementary, and we had dibbles, and we wanted them to read as many words as they could, in a minute. And I'd tell them, okay, hurry up, let's read faster. Like, I had to kind of coach them because that was part of our SLTs, or that was part, their dibble score. And so we've kind of done them injustice, I feel like, as they come up, because they're not comprehending, they're just reading fast, right? Mm-hmm. So, but they shouldn't read too slow either, obviously. So now let's look at expression. So the way a reader sounds whenever they read is expression. When you read with expression, you read at an appropriate intonation and inflection, and you pay attention to and use punctuation. So reading with expression means read in a way that doesn't sound robotic. So they have that expression. They're not, 'twas the night before Christmas and all through the house. They're not monotone throughout. They're giving 'twas the night before Christmas and all through the house. Not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. So they pause at that punctuation, and they use their inflection when they're reading too. So to gain a little bit more understanding of the importance of fluency, if you'll look at page 17 in your note catcher, we're going to look at a few research tweets. So
18.
what is it, 18? Sorry, thank you. So page 18 in your note catcher, read each tweet and highlight highlight or star the one that you would want to retweet. So which one do you like resonates most with you? There's not a right or wrong answer, just so you know. I'm not trying to trick you, baby.
So basically just which one we like more or which one we would actually put on our Twitter.
Just whatever. Just choose one. Either one you like the most or the one, like if you would want to, just which one resonates with you the most.
Okay.
You can choose two if you have to.
Okay, good. Because one is like sassy and then one's very educational. Those are both my personality.
Okay. All right, so if you will just kind of discuss with your partner which one you chose and explain why you chose that one.
What did you choose? I did too.
I chose that one because this one's boring me.
I'll read the first 4 words.
Yeah,
This one was good too. Like,
Yeah.
too.
I chose, whenever I did this, I chose that one, that last one.
I would
But I like that one at the top too. It's
I
like
would
that
It was
rather
right
between
choice.
these two, but I went with.
Yeah. If you're reading slower, you're going to read with more inflection,
Exactly.
and you're going to remember what you read more than if you were just speed reading.
Right.
And I totally agree with you on. I think, and it's still doing
It
a
is.
disservice because, like, I can tell you from my own child, Evan doesn't read bad at all. But when he goes in there to read in front of somebody, he freezes up and he can barely get it out. And he always gets intensive on speed reading. It's not because he can't read it and he can't understand it.
He just wants to get over with.
It feels pressure
Sawyer.
when you're being timed and he can't do it.
Sawyer's is
Cannot
more
do
of
it.
his, like, he wants to read reflections. Like, he's just that dramatic little kid.
Well, he likes to entertain.
Yeah, he likes to entertain.
Like
So
we
when
did
he's
tonight.
reading, he doesn't
So-
read boring. Like, he's gonna like, and then if he reads it wrong, he's gonna go back and reread it, like the whole sentence. But
Puts a voice in it.
he does.
Yeah,
So that's my fault. I feel like I do too.
But, like,
I read it,
Evan doesn't,
I'm not gonna say
he just does not do well in that section because of that reason.
Yeah.
And it hurts him really bad every time.
Yeah.
I'm like, here we go. Because he's never gonna do well.
So when they cross that bridge,
All right, so let's get a little technical for a moment to deepen our understanding of fluency and why it's so critical. So reading is a cognitive process that requires readers to focus attention on 2 activities. So first, the readers must unlock words from print. And secondly, they must make meaning from what's being read. So why is this so important? It's critical because a fluent reader in a fluent reader, this process occurs almost seamlessly and for practical purposes, instantaneously. However, in a disfluent reader who struggles with decoding, the process is inefficient, labored, and often breaks down. The student will break down. when the reader must devote a large or a large amount of attention on decoding words, there is little working memory left for what they've read. So they don't understand what they've read. They're focused more on what the word is, not what it means. And then there's more to fluent reading than just accurate decoding. Lack thereof often results in inadequate reading pace and diminished prosody. For a student with an efficiently developed reading system, the instant recognition of words and their meaning requires a lot of the reader's attention. So the ability to read with fluency frees up cognitive space to focus more on making meaning of the text. I know that was like a lot. So the research is clear. Fluency is incredibly important, but there's an important distinction to make. Fluency does not guarantee comprehension. This was my favorite part of the whole thing. Fluency does not guarantee comprehension, but lack of fluency guarantees lack of comprehension. So, with a partner, restate this in your own words.
Lack of comprehension comes
You need to learn about it.
Just because you're fluent doesn't mean you're gonna get it, but if you're not fluent, you're definitely not going to get it.
I mean, have you ever?
The information.
Yeah. I mean, I can think of a kid. Like, I'm just thinking of whenever I was in elementary, there was a kid that I taught that could read like 150 words a minute, that literally could not
Could not tell you what they just.
one word in what actually was said. That he could read, but he couldn't comprehend anything he was reading. So, I mean,
Well, I mean, if you can't read the book, you can't tell me what it's
But,
about, but
yeah.
if you read it too fast, you're not.
yeah, exactly.
There is I think the intentions were good there, but that's just a shortcoming.
Yeah.
It's hard to measure.
It was like to see who needed,
Why
that
couldn't they
support.
do like a fluency test and then don't do the cold read and tell me about what you just read. Read something else
Yeah.
slower and then tell me about it.
Yeah.
Like a separate test
I think so.
to add into it. That would give you a better measure, an overall measure of the student.
So fluency also lives very explicitly in the standards. In grades K to 5, there are a set of reading foundational standards that are organized into these 4 strands: print concepts, phonological awareness, phonics and word recognition, and fluency. So all 4 of these are addressed in both kindergarten and first grade, but in grades 2 through 5, the standards focus only on phonics and word recognition and fluency. So here is a 3rd grade standard. You can see the specific language used to describe fluency expectations across grades 3 through 5. So although fluency does not appear explicitly in the standards for 6 through 12, it's critical that disfluent readers are provided the interventions that they need to support their fluency development in all grades. So what does this mean for middle school and high school? So the 6 to 12 standards assume mastery of earlier standards. We know that. But just because it doesn't live explicitly in our standards does not mean it should not be addressed. So first, the standards in 6 through 12 assume mastery of earlier standards. So when they enter middle school with gaps, then in these foundational skills, then they absolutely should be addressed through explicit intervention and direct instruction. So this would not occur during your actual guidebook lesson. Like this would be like a pull the kids kind of thing and work with them on this. Second, there is data to support the need for an increased focus on fluency support in the upper grades. So in 2005 publication in the Journal of Adolescence and Adult Literacy, Timothy Rosinski shares a startling point. 61% of 9th graders are unable to read an 8th grade text fluently. It's kind of scary.
And that was 13 years ago.
Yeah, that was 13 years ago. So now the texts are actually, you think about it, now the texts are actually more complex that they're having to read in 9th grade than they were 13 years ago. Because this was before Common Core and Louisiana State standards and all of that. So, I mean, there's going to be a great need for us to somehow support this fluency.
So where does the problem
That's
lie?
Courtney, can I?
Yeah.
Just a little bit right here with these, so, and y'all coming from the junior high, when students are non-proficient on their 8th grade LEAP test, then we, can go ahead and promote them to 9th grade and make them transitional 9th grade, T9 kids. And one of the things that we have to do as a result of that is we have to put them in a remediation reading class, and then if they're, if it's math too, they have to have remediation math. So I'm thinking if we can think along the lines of whatever guidebook we're using, and whenever supports come, when we start talking about that,
Yeah.
whoever's doing the reading, which is typically Ms. Stevens, who does that, hopefully those will be aligned. And if we're using the guidebook units, then she can use that diverse learners guide to help support the reading that's going on in your class. Does that make sense?
So it
Would that be
overlaps.
very helpful? So it would be, yeah, exactly.
And see, that's what I've talked with our
Cool.
special ed teachers about doing the same thing, using those supports to like prepare them for the next day in their actual English class.
And
The reading.
sometimes even front loading.
Yeah,
So
front
like,
load.
right before you do, then they would be able to.
That's wise there.
So we know what fluency is and why it's important, but the question is how? How do I support my students' fluency development? So there are a few key principles behind fluency instruction, and you're going to see that you would see evident in guidebooks instruction. Students must have sufficient practice, of course, with a variety of texts. They need to hear fluent reading. They need to repeated practice reading a text, and they need feedback on their reading. So, sorry, wrong one. So you're going to have, let's see, I'm going to give you a jigsaw. I didn't bring it over here. You're going to have 5 minutes, and I'm going to give you each, you're all going to form a group of 5, which I think we're pretty much already a group of 5. And you're going to each choose, count off 1 to 5 to assign yourself a fluency strategy. So this is a jigsaw. You're going to go through and you are going to summarize, study your activity, summarize the teacher and student actions involved when implementing this activity, and be ready to explain how this activity supports fluency development. So you're going to do all of that, and then you'll come back together and you'll tell your group about your activity, and they'll be able to fill in like each of the spots. So y'all pass this back there. So this is just like group work.
Anybody need to do this first so I can see how it's done?
All you're going to do is read through it and make a summary. So the first one's choral reading. You're going to read choral reading, what it is, why you would use it, and how you would use it. And just kind of make a summary. On page 19 in your note catcher, you have a spot that you can actually write down your summary so that when it comes to your time, you can tell your group. Amber and Lauren, you can just choose one and do one. You don't have to do all of them.
All right, so who's taking what?
Okay.
We're doing
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2. Like y'all just count on 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So you're only going to do one.
You only have to do one of them, and then you're going to come back together, and you'll tell about your strategy, and they'll write down notes about it.
Okay, except
Yeah, you won't come back. You can do them all if you want to.
no, but where? Hold on, am I just?
Let me go post it for you.
I was like, where are we supposed to get this from?
Where we start at, like,
So, Troy, are you doing this activity?
Oh, yeah, tell me what I'm doing.
he's not.
Typical response.
Really?
Anyway, so I'm assuming you're doing it.
So, yeah,
So one,
Same, and the same as we
then I'll
were
do
before.
5.
That way, if I was.
I'm happy with echo reading.
I wonder why it didn't work when you did all of them at once, and you have to keep doing it.
Oh, yeah. right, it should be posted.
Let me see.
In your note.
Page 19 in your note
And then when
catcher.
we explain it, you're gonna write down the note.
Girl, this is sideways. Okay.
I'm sorry. Can you rotate it?
If I downloaded it, probably, but I'm not about to do that. Okay. All right. Lauren, you do one and I'll do one. Okay. Okay.
I'm gonna mute y'all so you can talk to each other.
Oh, you can mute us?
Yeah, I'm gonna mute you and you can like on my computer and you can talk to each other so y'all can share. Okay, y'all can partner.
All right. I don't trust it.
Me neither.
Look at that face. I don't trust it. I'm gonna text you.
Okay, or you can just call.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Goodbye.
She's working.
Text message.
Or do you want us to go ahead?
Yeah, once you're finished, you can go ahead and discuss. If everybody's finished at your table, go ahead and discuss.
Teacher, read the package, and the teacher counts down, and the whole class is going to
My number.
Yeah.
Okay, so core reading, which I've never heard of until like 2 minutes ago, unless it was math. So basically, the teacher, as I read, reads through it maybe one time, and then the next time the students all read aloud with the teacher. And this is one of the key features it provides safe. I know how students can get embarrassed if the teacher calls on them to read, and they can't read real well. So I see where this is. They would probably not be as stressful and waiting for you to call on them in this kind of environment. And all the praise and correction is kind of a class deal, not just one particular student. It's just, why would you, it's a good example is that they'll hear a model of good reading because the teacher leads the class. And, learn how to pronounce words they might not know how to pronounce.
Good readers.
Would also be another positive.
And has been read back and forth. And it's.
Hey, mine was the paired buddy reading, another name they call that is peer assisted learning strategy, it's called the MOS. The teacher selects the text, they pairs the student, a strong reader with a less fluent reader, and take turns reading. It helps build up the confidence of the lower level. They all need experience reading. The teacher gives clear directions, take turns and correct each other for other. So you gotta make sure that you pair somebody that's not going to be mean to the next month, reading fluently, and, they listen to their partner read. And they repeat the process with UK partners. It's just to help the lower level. To get more,
Thyroid page reading kind of goes hand in hand with oral reading. One-on-one basis where a teacher or peer works directly with the student in small groups or whole class. This helps improve pronunciation rate and based on teacher or peer feedback.
Builds that comprehension.
Fluency development lesson says that this is an effective approach to developing fluent readers in grades 1 through 3. The teacher would start reading and then shift responsibility for reading to the student using like short pieces of text, poems, rhymes, segments, and stories. It's going to, the student will follow along and listen. Then the student will read while being monitored. It focuses on the appropriate pace and using punctuation correctly, and appropriate expression. The students get feedback on their reading, and the teacher checks for students' understanding of the passage that they've read.
Okay, I had echo reading, and it's for like short segments of reading a text, where you would have the teacher read and then the students reread the same segment to help with fluency and rate and inflection, so that they can practice that rate and that inflection. I use that a lot, and it's great for modeling what you want it to look like and to sound like. And I use that a lot when I talk. I mean, a lot.
I did
And
too.
I just loved it because they're hearing it again, and they're reading it, and then they're sight reading and they're listening, and I felt like I got more out of it. Which I like choral reading
Are y'all-
too.
It's simple, actually. If you take a passage, read it to, and then you break it down by sentence, you read a sentence, and then a student or group of students will repeat back exactly what you said. Some of what you're talking about, teaching them the fluency, the flow, and all that kind of. Just I think it's good for through, especially for studies when we're trying to understand conversation. So I would see this use plays or that section of the story.
Something I failed to say here is this says use it with short pieces of text, like poems, rhymes, or sections of stories.
All right, so I want to stop here and emphasize an important note on complexity. So a concrete example of when teachers need to use professional judgment to strategically pair instructional approaches with complex text. So maybe when a text is very complex, students will likely need to hear it read aloud and read it themselves more than one time. The teacher might also choose which fluency strategy is most appropriate based on the reading ability of his or her students. For example, if a text is very complex, it might make more sense to use a strategy that has greater support, such as choral reading. But if a text is less complex, you might want to use a strategy like paired reading, where they can read it, they read it independently or with a partner, but it places a greater demand on the students rather than the teacher. So one of the strategies we just looked at was partner reading. So I'm gonna let you get with the partner. And what you're going to do is, you might see this in the guidebook sometimes. So I'm gonna let you practice it a little bit, and you're gonna be a student, so you're gonna have your little student hat on. That's why it's in the corner. But before we start, we need to talk a little bit about feedback. Remember, feedback is both specific and actionable, and students should be able, you should teach students to be able to give feedback that's not only specific but actionable. For example, You can read this on the board. Specific praise, you read at an appropriate rate, not too fast and not slow, so I was able to follow along with you and understand you. So actionable, what can they do now? Next time, read the first sentence with more expression to convey the meaning by emphasizing the word just. So the students, I mean, of course you guys do this anyway, but the students need to be able to give not just specific praise, like, oh, I like how you did it, but what can they do next to follow up? And they can do this. I did this whenever I taught third grade. Third graders could do this. It wasn't this, the appropriate rate. It was like the speed, they use those types of words, that vocabulary, but they can do the specific and actionable. So what you're going to do is partner A is going to read an excerpt aloud, and partner B is going to listen and follow along. Then partner B is going to give the specific and actionable feedback. And then partner A is going to reread the sentence to try that feedback out. So in your note catcher on page 20 is a little short section of a text. This is from the story of Prometheus Part 2, How Diseases and Cares Came Among Men. So you're just going to read this one little section. And I know it's going to be kind of hard. You might want to specifically try to mess up something just so that your partner can find something for actionable feedback. So, because most of us, I'm sure we're all fluent readers here. But so if you'll just read that little excerpt with your partner. So decide who's partner A and who's partner B. Hey, I'm going to mute y'all if y'all want to do that. Where'd Lauren go? I can't hear you.
I'm here, but I don't know why my thing went away.
Oh, okay. There you go. Okay, I'm going to mute y'all if y'all want to practice that together.
Okay.
All the students, there was a word rustling sound before she would shut it down again. Out flew 10,000 strange creatures with death-like faces in common and dreadful forms. I can't read it. Such as nobody in all the world has ever seen. They fluttered for a little while about the room, and then flew away to find dwelling places wherever they were. There were diseases and cares. For up to that time, mankind had not had any kind of sickness nor felt any troubles of mind.
Page 20.
Page 20
Page 20 on the note catcher.
You did all that?
Yeah.
You didn't have to do all that.
I know, but I underachieved and did them all. Not.
That was a little troublesome right here.
Okay, so basically what she wants us to do is I'm supposed to read this out loud to you, and then you're gonna give specific feedback that tells me what I did right, plan for action on how I could do it better. That's what she wants us to do.
Are you kidding me? This is cheesy. It's all get out.
She just walked by and smiled. I feel like she's really listening. Courtney, are you listening? Okay. Yeah. And students. All right. So basically I have to pretend to read this like I can't read, and then you're gonna practice giving me feedback.
This is like role play awkward.
Not the good kind either, huh? Okay.
Oh boy.
I've never done that. I'm too awkward. Okay. I don't want to do what? I physically cannot make myself read like I can't read. That pains my soul.
I know. I just got asked.
I'm muting you.
Oh. Okay.
Sorry. I tried a couple of times and it was.
Wait, what? What'd she just say?
I said I tried a couple of times, but it was.
Yeah, to unmute us.
Oh.
19 minutes.
I'm trying. We might get out of here before then.
Woo woo.
So, I wanted to emphasize that a critical component of partner reading is for the students to support one another. So that means not only providing their peers with constructive feedback and precise praise, but knowing exactly how to support a peer who is not reading with correct accuracy or struggling to decode. So these protocols need to be explicitly modeled and practiced so that students reading with a peer feels like it's a safe experience, and students know exactly what to do and how to approach it for a peer who is struggling. So not letting them struggle for too long, not jumping to the blur of the word, let them struggle a little bit, but not too long, basically. So but this protocol must be explicitly modeled and practiced in order to become a routine. So they should see in this classroom. Requires a culture of error so that all students feel safe, and it needs rules. So students need to know how to support a peer who is struggling. So each of the guidebook lessons follows a common structure, as you can see here. So the lessons start with let's launch, let's review section, and it ends with an assessment, which is let's express our understanding. Throughout the lesson, it'll have at least one or more tasks focused on reading. So let's read, let's work with words, and then speaking and listening, where it has let's discuss, and then writing, let's practice. So it's going to have some of those. It might not have all 4 of them in one lesson, but it's going to have multiple of them in one lesson. So we're going to just really quickly look through our units again. So you've got your Chromebooks. So we're going to take a closer look at how these components support the 4 key principles of fluency instruction. If you will open up to section 3 of the Flowers of Algernon, we're going to study the lesson sequence, review the slides, teaching notes, and materials for lessons 5 through 7, and discuss how you see the evidence of the 4 principles for fluency instruction within these lessons. So you can just discuss, if there's a note on page 20, you have a note catcher page where you can write down all of your findings. So the 4 principles for fluency is on page 22 if you need to be reminded of that. 20 also, not 22, but.
I thought we're fine.
So think about how they have practice with a variety of texts, hearing, fluent reading, all of those things, repeated reading.
It's like a whistling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna do that tomorrow. Well, they've already worked on them. Our ELA has, but we have another planning date. Let me grab it. 2 weeks. Yeah, did I add it? I think I added.
We talked about it here before, one time when I was here.
Yeah, and I think I added you to on Google. I went ahead and added like the teacher.
I saw all that stuff, yeah, okay.
That's
That's it.
9 through the 12th.
Yeah,
Okay.
July, so.
Yeah, I saw that, okay.
And so ELA already got theirs, so they're gonna they still get paid for the extra. They're gonna pay it out, give them the salary money.
Alexa's don't come to.
It should be more. Oh, I need you to. About 1 more page when I was
Okay.
getting parents, so just that one at the top.
Section 3.
So all I have to do is sign it, and then
And on the last lesson, the teacher read that I would be fluent, like to hear the fluent reading model.
That's 8 and 9 starts with.
Yeah, well, the teacher read, so that's the fluent reading model. I'm still writing for 5, like the fluent reading. And then they reread, so that is the repeated practice.
So tell them that they're working on inflation and rate at the beginning.
Which they will, like inflection and rate, they'll hear when the teacher reads as well.
She's going to get a Okay. Yeah, I'm setting it up already.
And
That's the question.
So when the teacher reads their reading section, so they will hear like the rate.
Because I'll be.
Those 2 hours online.
It's still, it's, when will I be out of? I mean, it's gonna be, I'm gonna be start running. Yeah, we do questions tonight. Yeah, okay, I'll do it. Okay.
No, I think she muted us because she walked by and hit a key. Like muted herself, but she can probably still hear us.
Courtney, can you hear us?
Yeah, but they're talking bad about us at the moment, so they're not gonna unmute us.
Like I think I muted you and I can't figure out how.
No, I don't think you did.
Got it?
Did you?
Yeah,
do it?
better. I was like,
Okay.
okay.
I don't know how that happened, but
Well, I don't understand how this works. I thought I was mute myself and I clicked this button, but then it wouldn't let me undo it.
yeah, because I had to undo it.
Oh.
Thanks.
What? She was muted on my end too, and I didn't press any buttons.
I think she muted me like altogether. So
Rude.
I didn't know that was possible. I don't understand this technology, man.
okay, we want to go to lunch, so let's move on. Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. So, to help solidify what we've learned, we're just going to do a little role play. You don't actually have to like act as it or whatever. But this is our scenario. A teacher at your school shares that they do not address fluency in their classrooms because there is no time for it. So think about what you would tell this teacher. Why is fluency so important and how students improve their fluency? So think about that. And then partner A, use your same partners. Partner A, act as the teacher described in the scenario. Partner B, act as yourself, a content leader, excited to explain why fluency is so important.
We don't have time.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go.
Oh.
Oh.
So tell her how she actually does fluency. If she teaches the guidebooks, how does she do
Yeah, that's
it?
what I was gonna say, like, if you are following the guidebooks, and you're gonna see every day, like, their reading
Are you following the guidebooks?
most.
That's what it says. Remember says that, nigga.
We have reworded. But say we have to do better.
Yeah.
That's what she's saying. And then we really don't realize you're doing it when you're, if you're following.
All right, you guys, so it is 11:52. I'm gonna go ahead and give you till 1 o'clock. So you have an hour and 8 minutes for lunch.
Yay.
So just be back at 1, ready to get started, because I want to be, out of here in time. We might get out a little bit early if we,
How many more sessions do we have? 2?
Yeah, 2 more sessions. So I'll be back at 1 and I'll call y'all.
Okay, I'll hop it up.